Did you know that research has shown that we have anywhere from 6,000 up to 70, 80,000 thoughts a day? Yes, 70 to 80,000 thoughts. And up to 95% of our thoughts are the same old repetitive thoughts as the day before, the week before, the month before, the year before, right? These repetitive thoughts have become our thought patterns or our habitual way of thinking. We are so used to these thought patterns, most times we aren't aware of them. Many of the thought patterns are learned and most are low vibrational and are problem focused, right? And we're talking about the areas that we've struggled in. So, what do you think would happen if you consciously sat down for a few minutes every day for the next 30 days and told yourself low vibrational, problem focused statements about your health? Remember, our spirit, mind, and body have a reciprocal dynamic relationship. The state or condition of one affects the state or condition of the other. So, we all know that it would have the opposite effect of what we truly desire, right? So why is it so hard to believe that telling ourselves, consciously telling ourselves more uplifting, higher vibrational, solution focused things will have a more desirable effect? For many of us, saying what we term as negative things about ourselves feels normal, right? Even though we never talk to a close friend or someone we loved in that way, that we truly loved and respected. Whereas the idea of telling ourselves kind, uplifting things feels foolish. So, what is an uplifting affirmation? The word affirm means to validate or confirm. Uplifting affirmations are intentional, short, encouraging statements that are used and repeated consistently to inspire, uplift, and create a more solution-focused and growth mindset. Uplifting affirmations are a way of affirming to ourselves who we are or intend to be and allow. Affirmations are a simple concept, but usually don't come naturally because, again, we are used to focusing on the problem. The more you tell yourself something, the easier it is to think and believe it, right? We know that our inner critic has plenty to say about our didn't, wasn't, couldn't, wouldn't, shouldn't, can't, ifs, and don't want to's, right? So how do uplifting affirmations work? So real quick, when I was around 3 years old, right, we moved to from Vassar, Michigan to Flint, Michigan, or right outside of it, a city called Mount Morris, Michigan. So my sister and I soon met our neighbors who eventually became our closest friends at the time, right? In order to get to their house, we had to walk through the backyard. So in the beginning, there was a lot of tall grass, like in between trees, and couldn't see the path. But the more we walked back and forth to each other's house, the pathway became more clear and easier to walk through. So think of somewhere you travel on a consistent basis, right? The first time you went there, you may have had to use some sort of navigation. And eventually you could travel there without even having to think about it, right? There were plenty of times I traveled to work and literally couldn't remember driving there. I just remember being there and be like, oh, that seemed kind of quick, right? There's something in our brain called neural pathways, and they work in a similar way, right? So our human brain is made of billions of neurons, which are cells that send messages between different parts of our brain. When we think a thought, neurons fire electrical impulses along pathways in our brain, which makes those neurons more sensitive and strengthens the neural pathway. In contrast, the brain will eventually trim the connections between neurons when neural pathways aren't used, right? It's kind of like you start using a pathway and then the grass grows. So when we repeatedly think something, we are literally strengthening that neural pathway in our brain, making it easier to fall into that thought pattern in the future, right? We're strengthening that pathway. The objective of using uplifting affirmations is not to change the all old thought patterns, but to carve out new pathways for us to navigate. Instead of falling into the groove of the old pathway, we consciously and intentionally tell ourselves a new thought. We build a new route or pathway in our brain. Uplifting affirmations reinforce our new pathway and make it easier to make this our new default pattern. When I first started working with uplifting affirmations, it was kind of difficult, right? It felt uncomfortable. It felt disingenuous, and I felt silly. But if you can keep working with it and creating those neural pathways, or develop what we call a habit, right? The affirmations, they get easier, and they actually can reshape how you relate to yourself, right? They can help change and transform your mindset. When used regularly, uplifting affirmations can help build confidence, inspire creativity, break through self-limiting beliefs, improve self-esteem, encourage a sense of calm, and boost inner strength. Uplifting affirmations aren't about blocking out the bad things in our lives. Instead, they can help transform our mindset and our focus, right? Our frequency, or changing what we frequently focus on. There are two different ways you can practice your affirmations. You can say them out loud, or you can start an affirmation journal and write them out several times a day. And so it's a matter of doing whichever method resonates with you. The main thing is to practice them, and to practice them often, right? Creating new thought patterns is all about frequency and consistency. This means to practice uplifting affirmations daily, right? Being consistent with practicing will help you break through old thought patterns. The more you practice, the less silly it will feel, and it's easier the more that you do it, right? So just keep at it. It's just like anything that when you begin practicing, and creating those new neural pathways, right? It hasn't become a habit. It's not automatic. So you have to keep at it. And you know that if you don't practice it, you definitely won't get better, right? And transform and change your mindset, or what you frequently focus on, and what you tell yourself, your daily self-talk, right? So until next time, here's to whole being healing. Peace, love, light, and bliss. Ashe.